In ancient times, when the wickedness of men multiplied upon the face of the earth, and the heart of many continually inclined towards evil, there was a righteous man. His name was Noah. Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. He walked with God. His family was a small nucleus of righteousness in the midst of a corrupted generation. It consisted of his wife, his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and the wives of his sons. 8 souls in total, chosen and preserved for a grand and terrible purpose. Then, the voice of the Most High resonated in Noah's heart, bringing a command of unprecedented magnitude. God instructed Noah to build a great ark, a colossal vessel, unlike any other ever seen. Not an ordinary boat, but an imposing structure, described in the source as being as vast as a ship, yet shaped like a box, long and massive. God was meticulous in his instructions, detailing every aspect of the divine construction. The ark was to be made with 3 distinct decks, and within countless compartments would be created, compartments specifically designated for Noah and his family to shelter those 8 precious lives, compartments dedicated to housing the animals, creatures of all species that would be gathered under Noah's care, and vast spaces for storing the provision, the food needed to sustain all the inhabitants of the ark during the uncertain time to come. The divine command included a vital requirement. The ark was to be built in such a way that no water could penetrate it. It needed to be completely secure and waterproof against what was to come. And along with the command to build, came the terrifying revelation of the purpose behind this monumental task. God declared to Noah with unquestionable solemnity, "I am going to send a great flood of water and destroy the whole world." The catastrophe would be global, total. Whoever is not in the ark will die. Thus, the ark was not merely a construction, but the only hope of survival in the face of an imminent divine judgment that would sweep the earth. Faced with this powerful and fearful word, which revealed God's wrath upon the world's ungodliness, Noah and his sons did not hesitate. They chose obedience. They obeyed Jehovah, the Lord of all creation, and with unwavering faith, they began the arduous and challenging work of building that colossal ark, the instrument of salvation amidst the predicted ruin. This was the beginning of the journey, the first step on a path that would require years of labor, faith, and perseverance. The destiny of all life on earth now rested upon the obedience of this righteous man and his family, and upon the construction of this ark according to the command of the Most High. The voice of the Most High resounded, laden with purpose and instruction. A singular command was given to Noah: build a vessel, not an ordinary vessel for known waters, but an ark, an immense box, unlike anything ever seen on earth. God specified the details of this unprecedented construction. It was to be a structure of vast dimensions, as large as a ship, yet looking more like a big, long box, designed for a sacred and urgent purpose, and the Lord detailed the internal structure, commanding the ark to have 3 distinct levels. 3 levels to house the life that would be preserved, and not just levels, but compartments. Numerous compartments were to be built within this colossal box. Each space would have its designated purpose, separating and protecting those who would enter it. There would be specific compartments to house Noah's own family, the chosen few to escape the coming destruction. There would be reserved spaces for the animals, a vast collection of all creatures on earth, who would be brought under divine protection. And there would be, equally, ample compartments to store the provision, the food necessary to sustain everyone during the time of trial that was approaching. God was meticulous in his instructions, ensuring the ark would be built with utmost integrity. He commanded it to be made in such a way that no water could penetrate its walls or roof. Floating fortress, impenetrable to the forces that would be unleashed. And then, the reason behind this monumental task was revealed, a reason that would haunt the earth. God announced his judgment upon the wickedness of humanity. "I am going to send a great flood of water and destroy the whole world," declared the Creator. A global catastrophe, a flood of unimaginable proportions would sweep the face of the earth, annihilating all life. But the Ark, this divinely designed structure, would offer refuge. Only those who were inside it would survive. Only Noah's family and the animals God commanded to enter would escape the fury of the waters. It was an order of salvation amidst the sentence of destruction, a call to faith and obedience in the face of a terrible destiny for the world outside. The Ark would be the only sanctuary, the only escape from the divine wrath that would manifest upon the corrupted earth. The construction began with this divine revelation, with this promise of judgment and this offer of salvation for the few righteous. With firm hearts and unwavering faith, Noah and his sons heard and obeyed Jehovah's powerful command. A colossal task awaited them, to build a vessel, an ark of never-before-seen proportions, according to the divine design. Without hesitation, they began the work, shaping the wood, joining the parts, raising the walls of that future floating fortress. Meanwhile, the world around continued on its way, far removed from the truth that Noah proclaimed. They saw the family working, day after day, year after year, on that strange project, and the reaction, was pure scorn. The other people, steeped in wickedness and spiritual indifference, simply laughed at the idea. Noah warned, speaking of God's imminent judgment, of a flood that would cover the earth. But his words fell on deaf ears. No one, absolutely no one among the mocking crowd, believed when Noah told them what God was going to do. The notion of a global catastrophe, sent by the Creator, was laughable to them. And so they continued in their wickedness, ignoring the warning, while the ark slowly grew. That was no quick task. It took time to build the ark, a long time, for it was very large, requiring constant effort and persistent faith over decades. Imagine the perseverance needed, working under the gaze of daily mockery, hearing the laughter and sarcastic remarks. But Noah and his family did not waver. Their obedience was a beacon amidst the darkness of widespread disbelief. And so, after many years of faithful labor, finally, that immense ark was ready to fulfill its divine purpose, a monument to faith in a world that refused to believe. After many years, the hard work came to an end. The colossal ark, a vessel without sails or rudder, was ready. It stood imposing, exactly as God had commanded. It was a refuge, a testament of faith erected in the midst of a world sinking into unbelief. Then came the next divine instruction, an order that would fill the ark with life. God commanded Noah to bring in with him every kind of living creature, and not in any way, but with divine precision. Of every animal species, 2 should enter the ark, male and female. Of certain animals, 7 pairs, male and female. And all species of birds would also find shelter in that vessel of salvation. It was an unprecedented spectacle, creation responding to the call of the Creator, marching towards the only safe place on earth. And Noah, as always, obeyed every detail, with diligence and unwavering faith. With the vast company of animals and birds settled in their compartments, the most solemn moment arrived. Noah, his wife, his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives, a total of 8 souls, entered the ark. They left behind the known world, the land that would soon be swept away. They entered the refuge built by faith, shutting themselves off from everything happening outside. Meanwhile, outside, life continued its unrepentant course. People continued in their routines, marrying, buying, selling, laughing at Noah's preaching. They did not heed the warning. They did not believe the word of God spoken by his servant. They were blinded by ungodliness and mockery. But the time for mercy came to an end. The door of the ark, that massive entrance, was closed. Not by Noah or his sons, but by God himself. A divine seal, an act of protection for those inside, and a sign of judgment for those who remained outside. Now, inside the ark, there was waiting, a silence heavy with anticipation. Outside, the ignorance continued, but not for much longer. The door was sealed, salvation was guaranteed for those inside, and destiny was sealed for those outside. They waited, Noah and his family, safe in the ark, protected by the hand of God, for what was about to happen outside the world continued its unholy journey. Hardened hearts, blind minds went on their former ways. No faith, no belief in the words a righteous man spoke, day after day, over decades. Mockery echoed through the valleys. Laughter resounded from the hills. Scorn veiled the eyes of those who rejected the divine warning. The ark, that immense wooden box, stood as a monument to folly for them, or so they thought. But the eternal promise-keeper does not fail. Suddenly, bursting forth from the heavens, not a gentle dew, but merciless torrents. Water, water, and more water. The laughter ceased abruptly. The scorn froze on their lips. Oh, the surprise. Oh, the terror that seized the unprepared souls. The cruel and undeniable reality crashed down upon them like the very waters that now threatened them. Panic spread faster than the stormy wind. Where to seek refuge now? Where to find shelter from the Creator's wrath? They ran desperately. They beat on the ark's door, the same door they ridiculed, the same door they ignored while it was open. But it was too late. Infinitely too late. Yahweh himself had sealed the entrance, and what he closes no man can open. The water rose with terrifying veracity. It overflowed rivers, swallowed valleys. It became an impetuous sea, dragging ancient trees, rolling gigantic stones with an apocalyptic roar. The sound was deafening. The fear was overwhelming. They climbed the hills seeking high ground, a momentary refuge against the rising tide. If only they had listened. If only they had believed and entered the ark while there was time. Now only lamentation and despair remained. The rain did not stop. 40 days and 40 nights. The heavenly torrent continued to fall without respite. The water rose non-stop. It covered the hills, climbed the highest mountains. Nothing escaped that cosmic purification. Everything that breathed outside the ark perished. Men, women, children, animals, all silenced by the divine flood. Only one testimony floated upon the watery abyss. The ark, built in faith, sailed safely upon the waters of destruction. Inside it, life persisted. Outside it, death reigned absolute. A scene of judgment and salvation. The sky wept with a fury never before seen. The water, torrential and relentless, poured down day after day. 40 days and 40 nights the rain did not cease, covering the face of the earth with a liquid mantle of judgment and destruction. The flood, which before had seemed a joke, to mocking eyes, became the overwhelming reality. The streams became raging rivers. The rivers turned into furious seas, and the sea, oh, the sea swallowed the land in a deadly embrace. The water rose without stopping, climbing slopes and mountains, challenging peaks once proud. Even the highest summits, which seemed to touch the firmament, were swallowed by the aquatic fury. There was no refuge. There was no escape. Where, once there was vibrant life and carefree souls, there remained only the infinite surface of a turbulent ocean. As God had predicted in his solemn word, every creature that breathed outside the ark perished in that judgment. The breath of life, granted by God, was withdrawn from the nostrils of all beings, men and animals, who had rejected the mercy offered through Noah. Cities, civilizations, all the corruption and violence that infested the earth were swept away by the cleansing torrent. A sepulchral silence hung over the watery vastness, punctuated only by the sound of the waves and the wind upon the waters. But amidst this total desolation, a vessel, a simple box of wood treated with pitch, floated undaunted. The ark, built with diligence and faith, according to every detail instructed by the Most High, did not sink, did not break apart. It was lifted by the very waters that destroyed the world, sustained by the mighty hand of God. Noah, his family, and the myriad creatures he had commanded to gather were safe within those wooden walls, witnessing from their refuge the annihilation of the sinful world. The storm continued to rage, the waters to rise, but the ark remained, as a symbol of hope and obedience in a world that lay drowned. Finally, after the long and terrible ordeal, the rain stopped. The sun, once hidden by the thick curtain of clouds, shone again upon a radically transformed landscape. What was seen, from horizon to horizon, was only water, a vast, immense sea that covered everything. And upon that liquid immensity, sailing alone, was Noah's Ark, the sole witness to the life that survived the universal cataclysm, an image of complete destruction outside and guaranteed salvation within, a somber reminder of the price of disobedience and the faithfulness of one who trusts in God. Across the immense sea that covered the earth, a scene of total silence hung. Only Noah's Ark floated upon the endless waters. The giants, those fearsome beings who caused so much evil, had vanished. The destruction of the flood reached them all. They could no longer harm or oppress people. They had died, yes, all of them perished, along with their mothers, and all the wicked humanity that rejected the truth of God. But what about their fathers? What became of the fathers of these giants? They were not like the others whom the water swallowed. The source reveals a profound secret about their nature. They were angels, powerful spiritual beings who, through rebellion, descended from heaven to earth. They took on human bodies, lived among men, corrupted creation, caused the iniquity that led to divine judgment. When the great flood came with its uncontrollable fury and death swept the face of the planet, these angels did not perish like mortals. They could not be drowned. They left the physical bodies they had created for themselves, abandoned those human forms that allowed them to interact in the material world in a forbidden manner, returned to the spiritual realm, becoming once again what they were in essence, angels. But what fate awaited them? They did not return to God's heavenly family. Their disobedience and corruption rendered them unworthy. They became outcasts in the cosmos, excluded from communion with the Holy Creator. The Bible clearly identifies them. They became angels of Satan, demons, evil spirits condemned to oppose the divine purpose. The flood cleansed the physical earth of their incarnate presence, but their spiritual state became even darker and fixed in rebellion. And then, amidst the liquid vastness that covered the world, the powerful hand of God began to act in a new way. The rain had ceased, the sun could shine again. But the waters remained, a colossal testimony to divine judgment. But the Creator would not leave the earth forever submerged. He acted with sovereignty to fulfill his purpose of preservation and recreation. God caused a wind to begin blowing over the surface of the waters, a wind sent directly from his sovereign will. And under the force of that divine wind, the floodwaters began, slowly but surely, to recede, to diminish their height over the face of the earth. The process of restoration and new life had begun, and the wind blew with divine force, moving the vast waters that covered everything under the sky. The waters that had risen in fury now began to recede, diminishing their relentless force. 5 months passed, a vast and lonely time within the ark's walls, when finally, a gentle tremor announced the end of that aimless drifting. The giant ark, a box of life on the global ocean, landed gently on the summit of a mountain, a solitary peak emerging from the liquid vastness. But it was not yet time to leave. The waters still reigned, although they were diminishing. More days and weeks dragged on inside that sacred vessel. Then, slowly, those within could glimpse through the openings. Yes, the summits of other mountains began to reappear, like islands of hope in a sea that was now yielding. The land revealed itself little by little, but it was still waterlogged, too dangerous to step upon. Noah, with the wisdom granted to him, decided to test the waters to send winged messengers to seek signs of the new land. First, he released a blackbird, a raven, to fly over the wet vastness. The raven left but found no dry rest for its feet. It flew for some time and then returned to the ark, its only safe dwelling. Noah sent it several times, and the raven always returned, unable to find a place to settle. Then, Noah sent a different bird, a dove, to see if the water had decreased on earth. The dove flew, but, like the raven, found no dry place to stay and returned to the ark, the only point of shelter in a still flooded world. But Noah persisted. He sent the dove a second time, a flight of hope amidst uncertainty. And behold, the dove returned, bringing in its beak a green sprig of olive, an unmistakable sign of new life, of trees emerging from the waters, of drying land. Thus, Noah knew for sure that the waters had significantly receded, his heart filled with the certainty of the divine promise. Noah sent the dove for the third time, and this time she did not return. Finally, she had found a dry place to live, a home in the renewed world. The long wait was over. After more than a year confined in the ark, a year of floating upon the waters, of destruction, the voice of God sounded again to Noah. "Leave the ark," ordered the Creator. "Take all your family and the animals with you." What a moment of relief, of gratitude, of indescribable joy. To step out into the sunlight, to breathe the fresh air of a world washed and purified, to go out to repopulate the earth, to fulfill God's eternal purpose for creation. The obedience of one man saved humanity and animal life, and now, faith was rewarded with a glorious new beginning. May the lesson of obedience and trust in God always resonate in our hearts, for even in the greatest storms, He who promises fulfills His word, bringing salvation and a new covenant. And so, we reach the end of another journey through the sacred scriptures. If this message has touched your heart and enlightened your understanding, we ask that you leave your like, your comment, and, above all, that you subscribe to support our project of carrying the word forward. May the peace of the Lord be with you, and may God richly bless your life.